Hi, everybody. So they asked us to do a fire chat, so we are waiting for the fire a bit.
Although it's hot.
It's funny, we need to talk to one another, and we are talking to one another all the time for the last almost 7 years. So we try to keep you up to date as well about what we talk. So maybe it's easier to see how we came across this operation, that we have a fund that is dedicated to Spain, but it's an Israeli-Spanish fund. So maybe we heard the side of you, Mark.
Yeah, maybe I can introduce myself. I'm Mark. Mark Cavelars is not a very Spanish name, but I was born in Madrid. So I'm a local. And we have started working together back in 2014 when we saw a great opportunity to invest in technology in Spain. And we connected to build the Spanish-Israeli team and develop first a fund investing in Spain, and after that we joined forces also to develop a new fund investing in Israel. So maybe Yuval, you can follow on that part of the story.
Yes, so I'm Yuval. I'm the co-founder of Swan Lab. I came from Israel. I'm a VC in Israel for many years. Prior to that, I even had other careers, but now my passion is around tech. And as part of my job as being a venture capitalist in Israel, we always host delegations from all over the world. And it happens to be that in the same week, I had 2 delegations from Spain. One delegation of a business delegation of business person from Spain, where I met Mark. I gave a lecture about the Israel VC ecosystem. At the end of the lecture, Mark stepped up to me and says, listen, I'm building a venture fund. I'm contemplating of building a venture fund in Spain. Maybe I can consult you. Of course, my answer was no, because I get a lot of those responses, and then usually I don't have the time. And then a few days later, I had another delegation from the Spanish government, from the Fondico, from ICO, talking about the program Fondico Global, about how to support venture capital in Spain. And then I connected the dots and I called Mark. And he said, I was waiting for you.
So it was a very, very challenging time because Yuval and the team in Israel were running a $80 million fund with tremendous success. Some companies of that fund became public in the NASDAQ. Some companies exited with some large corporations. And I figured out, okay, how do I pitch these guys? How do I tell them that in Spain, in Madrid, there is a place where they can make money, because they like to make money, first of all, where they can expand their knowledge or their capabilities. So it was first about telling them that in Spain and in Madrid there is innovation, and that there is opportunities to invest and opportunities to generate value. And it has been a long ride, because it has been 8 years so far. And I remember when you first came to South Summit, that was the second
South Summit,
event. What was it?
Actually, I was invited to speak at the first South Summit, and I went to my partners and told them, listen, I got invited to speak in Spain. What do you think? They told me, forget about it. Spain is a dead country. The time was 2013 then. 2012, just after the crisis, the financial crisis. So indeed, I listened to them, and I didn't come to the first South Summit. For the second one, I did come. I don't know how many of you remember, but the first South Summit was in the Bullfight Arena in Madrid. I said, who is doing a conference in a bullfighting arena? Doesn't sound very promising. And it even called South Summit because they grouped together. There wasn't enough startups just in Spain, so they grouped together startups from Italy, from Greece, from Portugal, even from Turkey, all across Southern Europe. That's why it's South Summit. And then it was a meaningful sum. Looking at what is happening today, it's funny, because what then consider a meaningful sum, it's not even 10% of what we see here today as a magnitude. And I think that's a very interesting show of power that Madrid currently can show. And my partners asked me, okay, why Spain? So of course I don't know the answer, so I asked Mark, why Spain? I'm talking about, again, 2013, 2014, why Spain?
Well, and why Spain, and why entrepreneurship and technology in Spain at that time? It was a leap of faith. Not to say that there were no references previous to that, but I truly believe that time that there was an ecosystem in the building, in the construction. And I remember that not only I was trying to convince you in Israel that there was great opportunities to invest in Spain and that there would be lots of deal flow and lots of great teams creating companies. But even locally, I was talking to people in places like Barcelona or Malaga, and I was telling them, we are building a fund investing in B2B from Madrid. And they told me, in Madrid, there is no B2B. There is no technology in Madrid. And I said, just wait and see. And so with that conviction that even my local friends were not convinced about it, I went to Israel and I told Yuval, there is a great opportunity. There is talent. There are some ingredients that you don't even have in Israel, like the corporate ecosystem, like population size, like the opportunity that many people wanted to start creating companies. And this is a wave we need to ride. You can bring in an investment knowledge, you can bring a track record, you can bring a history. We have a local team with a lot of knowledge about how to develop companies, how to scale companies, how to internationalize companies. Let's do something together. And eventually that clicked together, and we set up Swan Lab.
Yes.
Remember, huh?
Yes, by the time that he told me that, actually I was in charge of a program we had in Israel, in my fund that I was part of at that time, to establish funds outside of Israel. And each market we addressed, I look for certain attributes that one should have in order to develop what we called in Israel an ecosystem, a VC ecosystem. At that point in time, I was looking for certain things. First of all, government support. I heard that there is a government support. Good local talent. And I start reading about universities like IE, etc., and I see that there is good local talent, and of course, presence of multinational companies, which in Spain, what's interesting is the majority of the multinationals are actually local companies that became multinationals, like Telefonica, etc. So I see that all the building blocks were here, so I said, okay, this is a good opportunity to start with. And actually, the main challenge at that time was that because of the financial crisis, the majority of the young generation, after they finished school, they didn't have a job to go and find for a job. So they had two options. And I remember that we even put it in the first presentation that we went for to raise money for the fund. The first sentence was that currently in Spain, you can either innovate or immigrate. And that was the issue. For young people, they had two options at that point in time. They can either go to Berlin, go to London, go to the US, and open something or do something there, or to start something local, which was the innovation. And this is how we start pitching investors about Spaniard investors, why they should invest in a Spanish fund in Madrid, just because of this sentence. And I remember that we had a newspaper article, and then later, some politician even used the same phrase, they can either innovate or immigrate, out of our presentation. And it was very interesting.
Yeah. It was very challenging at that time, because on one side, the question was whether there would be enough deal flow, enough quality opportunities to invest, and on the other side, and it took us two years to raise the fund, whether there would be investors, because we had a double challenge. We had the challenge to look for the right deals, and then in our investment committee with these Israeli guys that were always saying, no, this is not good enough, this is not good enough, that we could find enough good companies to build a good portfolio. Today, this is a reality, and the fund is performing fantastically. The other challenge was to persuade investors to invest in a first-time fund, investing only in B2B, whereas other funds were investing in B2C, internet, mobile, social marketplaces. So it took us 2 years. In a way, we felt what entrepreneurs feel today and in the past and will feel in the future, which is to develop a concept, to see a challenge, to raise the money, and to execute. And in 2016, we launched the fund. We started investing. Today, we have 13 companies in the portfolio. The fund is doing very well. We have actually had a very, very nice month of April and May, because in this month, 3 of our best performing companies have raised one $65 million, and 2 others have raised each $30 million. And these are companies where we invested only 3-4 years ago at valuations of 2-3 million. So we have really seen a process of scaling the companies, and this is very, very a great satisfaction. But what is probably also a great satisfaction is to look at the face of our Israeli partners, because things have changed. We get deal flow. We are scouting every year over 500 deals. And maybe you can tell a little bit about what is happening on the quality of the deals and entrepreneurs.
Exactly. I think one of the things that we were being asked to talk about is how us as a kind of foreign investors are looking at what is happening here in Madrid specifically, but in Spain as a whole. And being almost 8 years into the business here in Madrid, I can tell that there was a tremendous leap even in change of the magnitude of what you see. But first of all, by the quantity, we see a lot more opportunities. In the beginning, we had to go all across Spain just to look for interesting opportunities. We go to universities, we start talking to other funds, and there aren't any funds to talk to at that point in time, not many at least. And today, we see that both the quality and the quantity went up dramatically. And I think that a good indicator is the amount of money that is invested into startups here in Madrid from foreign investors that are truly foreign. So funds from other places in Europe and even in the US are coming, looking for opportunities here and actually eventually investing in them. So this is the full cycle that we were envisioning 8 years ago is now actually coming to life just before our eyes in those days now. And even the companies that Mark talked about, in all of them, the one who made the large investment into those early stage companies we have invested in as a Spanish local fund were foreign funds without a local representative. They actually came looking for opportunities here and actually, in a sense, bank of what we did as investors. And today, I think that you saw the list before, all the maps about what is happening here in Madrid, and you can see that the magnitude has gone twofold up in less than 5 years. I think that's the most interesting part. And another thing is that looking from the outside, I remember the first time I came to the South Summit, the one thing that struck me the most, and excuse me if somebody will be offended at what I'm going to say now, the majority of the people wear suits. And for me, it was very strange to see people in a startup conference wearing suits, because in Israel, we don't wear suits. You go to the US, you don't see suits.
I had to buy you a suit.
Indeed. When we go fundraising, he bought me a suit. I didn't wear it.
Lots of money I lost.
But that was a mark that everybody wears suits. And today, if you go around and you see that at least the vast majority of the people who come here, and for sure the vast majority of the people that are part of the VC ecosystem, either as entrepreneurs, service providers, or as the fund himself, don't wear suits no more. I guess that you won't wear t-shirts like myself. It will take some time, but button shirt, it's okay.
Bear in mind. So what is next? So one of the things that I cherish about the relationship between the Spanish and the Israeli team is that they are guiding us in a path. In a way, when I look at the Israeli ecosystem, and I've really tried to understand where everything started. Actually, the partners in Israel created a fund, the first fund in 1992. And the name of the fund was First Israeli Fund. So it's literally history over there. Is that by seeing the steps they took as a venture capital ecosystem, as an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and as a team, we try to map where we are today and what is coming. And let me give you a few ideas. if everything happens similar to what is happening in Israel, now very soon we will have a tremendous amount of second-time entrepreneurs. And that will mean that the quality, the speed, and the agility by which innovation and startups will be created will go faster. If we think about where Israel has been and was maybe 10 years before, we will see that there will be a creation of a lot more of venture capital funds, investment arms of companies, incubators, accelerators. Just for comparison purposes, Israel, with a small population and a very robust ecosystem, is still 5-10 times bigger than ours. So there is still a lot of space to grow and to develop. And thinking about what Israel is doing and what maybe we can learn from is that we make a big effort on education. That we, looking at what is coming, we make a big significant investment on technical education, business education, entrepreneurship programs, even at the school level and the university level. Because if we follow just half of the path that we have seen in Israel, and we discussed that a lot, we will have a significant shortage of talent. There will be no problem with money, I'm sure, I'm convinced. There will be no problem with people with ideas, but there will be shortage of talent, of qualified talent, technology talent, educated talent on developing new companies and growing new companies, internationalizing new companies. We are really convinced that the future is going to be great. We are a very strong ecosystem here, and when we see the path over these years, it's going to be even greater. But we need to be prepared, and this is maybe something that we discuss, and this is a message to the private and public institutions and to everybody. We need to be prepared not to spoil the opportunity that we have in our hands. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, and I think part of it is being globalized. One of the things that were in Spain when we first entered Spain was that everything was very local, and in some cases people went to Latin America just because of the language. And you haven't seen anyone doing business outside of the Spanish-speaking world. And eventually when you confine yourself to such a limited geographical space, eventually it's very hard to grow, especially not grow fast. And when we talk about startups, those are like companies on steroids. You need to go very fast. So you must go and conquer all of the markets at once, or at least go to the big markets, whether they are in the US or wherever they are. And another shift that I see over time, and something that I think we should continue supporting here in Spain, is the use of English, because today English is the international language of business, especially in high tech. Just to give you an example, in Israel, for instance, when I write an SMS to my friend at work and I want to ask him whether he wants to go out for a beer, I do it in English. I write in English. I write the emails in English. We teach at schools in English. Because English, this is the word to the language to use. And I see a change here in Spain. For instance, when I first came, the majority of the founders of companies didn't speak English, or even if they spoke English, they were afraid to use English in front of me because maybe they will be considered not that smart. So on the contrary, even if you don't speak English well, you still be considered better than not speaking English at all. That's something that I give as an example.
Yeah. And where are we now? Maybe to finish, I would like you to keep two ideas. Our fund in Spain is 40 million euro. We got private money from Spain and abroad, and we got also institutional support from the government and different institutions. When we started with the fund, we have invested in 13 companies. The combined headcount of these 13 companies, when we invested, was quite a little bit over 150 people. Today, these companies may be employing over 800 people. These companies received from our fund 50 million with some co-investment programs we have from us, but these companies have received in total more than 200 million so far. And out of the 200 million, over 120 million become international money from foreign funds, from foreign corporates. So this is a signal that the ecosystem and that venture capital, and I have to make a call about venture capital, is essential to foster the entrepreneurial ecosystem and to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the right way. This is the first message I want to tell you. And maybe a bit of publicity about ourselves, what is next. Now we are launching 2 new funds to invest in Spain. Each fund will be between 70 and 80 million euros. We are going to make the first closing of one of them very soon, and we hope that we will have the 2 funds up and running by the end of the year. One fund follows our thesis on B2B technology, investing in very early stage, late seed Series A in Spain, B2B technology, and the other one is a dedicated fund, a fund specialized in agro and food tech, with an element of technology transfer also. So our story started together in Tel Aviv in 2014. We created a 40 million euro fund. Then we launched a fund in Israel. Next year you will be launching a new big fund in Israel. And now we are launching 2 funds in Spain, and we just started. So we hope that we can ride the wave of the Spanish and the Madrid technology ecosystem, and we hope you enjoyed our story.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And one final word, just one final